Hey, what is up everybody? It's Animac here for Anime Uproar, and this is unbelievable. The villains just turned the entire MHA story upside down in a matter of moments. The return of Kurogiri absolutely broke the final arc of MHA, and it's too late to go back now. Full Power Shigaraki, Sad Man's Parade, Dabi's Nomu powers, it's all happening, so let's get into it. You guys know the drill. If you enjoy our vids and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like and comment right now. And if you're one of the over 50% of people who are still not subscribed to the channel, even though you watch our videos, make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. Subscribing is completely free on YouTube, and it might seem like a little thing to you, but it actually helps us out a lot. Finally, this video will of course contain MHA manga spoilers, so please proceed with caution. You have been warned. In the previous chapter, we saw that Spinner had managed to reach Kurogiri, and after a botched attempt to reach him using a recorder, Spinner ultimately managed to awaken him using the hand that Shigaraki used to wear as part of his old villain costume. As that chapter came to an end, we were left wondering whether the person who awakens would be Kurogiri or Shirakumo. Especially after we learned that Kurogiri now has one human-looking eye and that he has some of the speech patterns that Shirakumo used to have. Well, the latest chapter answers our question very quickly. Will Kurogiri be conflicted about which side to choose, or will he immediately jump in to help the villains, which would of course instantly switch the balance of power on the battlefield? On the very first page, the narrator confirms that present Mike's voice didn't reach Shirakumo. The one who is awake is Kurogiri, and the epic battle between heroes and villains is about to reach a completely new level. Now, of course, I personally do believe that Shirakumo will awaken eventually, but for now, that is not the case. In my previous MHA video, I warned that if Kurogiri awakens and joins the battle on the side of the villains, he would instantly change the game completely because he can teleport Shigaraki away from the effects of Aizawa's quirk, which would allow Shigaraki to instantly regenerate and use all of his other quirks once more. But even I didn't think that Kurogiri would create such absolute chaos in such a short period of time. He didn't just change the game on the battlefield where Shigaraki is currently located, but on every single battlefield at practically the same time. But more on that in a little bit. We are then taken to a weather forecast all the way in the United States, where new best girl Meryl explains that a massive Flammagenitus cloud has suddenly formed over Japan and is continuing to grow at an alarming rate. This is basically a massive flame cloud, the kind of cloud that forms during a huge volcanic eruption, for example. And Meryl states that if this cloud enters the jet stream, it will influence the weather all the way in North America. And this type of phenomenon is definitely a real thing. I remember years ago when a volcano erupted in Iceland and flights had to be cancelled and diverted across Europe and North America because the cloud was just so big and the planes couldn't fly through it. It seems that this giant fire cloud formed as a result of multiple enormous heat sources combining with each other, and these heat sources are none other than the Todorokis themselves. Best girl Meryl then starts getting philosophical on us and questioning whether everything that's happening now started with the birth of the first quirk user, the luminescent baby. Did the combination of human nature and the appearance of quirks inevitably lead to large-scale conflict that is now reaching a global scale? Was all of this unavoidable from day one because human nature is what it is and gaining new powers just leads to more corruption? But Meryl then adds that a single person's power can change the whole world, and it is clear that she is now going off script. This is not what she was supposed to say. And when her co-workers ask her what she's doing, she says that the world is trying to flatter All for One in order to appease him and avoid conflict with him, but she disagrees with that approach. As soon as she says this, the newscast cuts to commercials. Typical mainstream media, but good for Meryl. I honestly hope this won't be her only appearance and that she will return to the story because she seems awesome and she is also very, very attractive. Back in Japan, the heat that is being generated by the newly reinvigorated Dabi is absolutely unbearable. Shoto and all of Endeavor's sidekicks have already pushed themselves beyond their limits. They feel as if the heat and flames may consume them at any point. And yet Toya, aka Dabi, is still standing. To be fair, he looks like a charred, flaming zombie. He looks more like a burning Nomu than a man, but he is still standing. Nevertheless, Dabi can tell that his body won't be able to hold out forever. He realizes that his original plan of first taking out Shoto and then bringing his body as a present for Endeavor won't work because Endeavor is located far away in Gunga, and Dabi's body simply won't hold out for that long. If he wants to confront Endeavor before he completely burns up, Dabi will have to leave Shoto behind and head out for his father's location right now. Dabi then uses his immense flames to launch himself into the air and essentially fly towards Endeavor while being propelled by the power of his own flames. Burnin and the other sidekicks are shocked that Dabi has been able to unleash such incredible power, especially since his body was always weak to fire and he didn't have the kind of resistance that Endeavor and Shoto have. If you guys recall, my personal theory is that Dabi was turned into some sort of human Nomu hybrid by Dr. Ujiko after All For One found him on Sekoto Peak. And that is why Dabi has been able to accomplish these seemingly impossible tasks and still survive. Shoto desperately tries to convince Dabi to stay and fight him, but Dabi is already soaring through the air. And then, suddenly, as he is flying, one of Kurogiri's warp gate portals shows up and teleports Dabi to another location. Back at the UA, the flame cloud that Meryl was talking about is creating strong gusts of wind that are tossing debris all over the place. Needless to say, this is making it extremely hard for Monoma to keep his eyes open non-stop in order to keep erasing Shigaraki's quirks. But to his credit, Monoma refuses to quit. He knows that this is going to be a historic battle between good and evil, and he wants to be remembered as the reason why the heroes won. So here we see Monoma's obnoxious ego actually coming in handy for once. Seriously though, respect to Monoma. He has been an absolute Chad during this arc, and as far as I'm concerned, all his cringy annoyingness from the past is long forgotten. But just as Monoma is psyching himself up to keep going until the heroes win, Kurogiri's portal appears right behind him. And we can already see Present Mike and Shigaraki's old costume hand coming through the portal. This portal is being generated by Kurogiri's own body. We can actually see his eyes in the upper section of the portal, so Kurogiri himself is arriving in the flesh. As Aizawa turns around and looks at his old friend Shirakumo, who is now the villain Kurogiri, the chapter takes us to Gunga, where Prime All For One is still facing off against Endeavor, Hawks, and a few other heroes and hero students. All For One then explains that he installed a chip in Shigaraki's old costume hand, and this is apparently the one that belonged to Nana Shimura. That chip activated when Spinner brought the hand close to Kurogiri. This chip somehow signaled to Kurogiri to wake up and to begin obeying the orders of the villains. So again, All For One had a backup plan. Even though Spinner brought that voice recorder and then he couldn't use it because it broke, All For One had anticipated that something like this could happen, and he had installed that chip as a backup. Say what you will about him, but All For One truly is a mastermind when it comes to planning and strategizing, and as reprehensible as his actions are, I can definitely appreciate his evil genius. Although he is not one of my favorite villains in anime and manga, his evil genius is definitely worthy of a final villain. As All For One is talking, two black portals suddenly appear right above Endeavor. Dabi emerges from one of them and says, "Hey there, Dad." Meanwhile, Twice appears in the other one and calls out angrily to Hawks. Yes, you heard that right, I said twice. Two Twices or Twice clones appear, and All For One proclaims that a sad man's death has planted a seed of hatred in a young girl's heart. That's right, this means that Kurogiri has already warped Toga from Okuto Island to Gunga, and she has already used Twice's blood to become Twice and to activate his quirk. To make things even darker, one of the Twices seems to be holding a piece of Tsuyu's goggles, the ones she wears on her head as part of her hero costume. When we last saw Tsuyu, she and Ochako were fighting Toga on Okuto Island. So this indicates that Toga definitely won that fight, and we can just hope that Tsuyu and Ochako are okay. And we all know what comes next. Toga is desperate for revenge for Twice's death, and she is about to use Sad Man's Parade to create an infinite number of clones and completely overwhelm the heroes. All for One says that now everyone will see what would have happened if Twice had not been taken out by Hawks during the previous war. As Hawks screams out that they have to kill Twice right now, this epic chapter comes to an end. And yes, just as I feared, things have changed completely within just one chapter, all thanks to Kurogiri. Kurogiri has completely changed the game, and not just on the main battlefield, which is the flying UA grounds, but on every battlefield. Dabi is now suddenly in Gunga, and so is Toga, who is already using Twice's quirk. While she was still on Okuto Island, the heroes were fairly safe from Sad Man's Parade. Well, at least the heroes who weren't also stuck on Okuto Island were. But now, in a matter of mere moments, Kurogiri has changed everything. Toga and Dabi are already in Gunga. Kurogiri himself is already at UA and just seconds away from allowing Shigaraki to use his full power again, and things are suddenly looking extremely bad for the heroes. We went from Deku actually getting the upper hand on Shigaraki to everything completely collapsing on every battlefield in the span of a single chapter. And that's before we even take into account that giant fire cloud and everything else that's happening across Japan and the world. Man, this really does feel like the beginning of the true final battle in MHA. The real beginning of the end. At this point, it's hard for me to imagine that all the major heroes and hero students are going to survive this fight. With the huge advantage that the villains just procured for themselves by releasing Kurogiri, it is very likely that we are about to see some heroes and hero students violently erased from the story. On top of this, we also have to remember that there seems to be a time limit for how long Deku can use Gear Shift. So if his time runs out and Shigaraki regains the full use of his quirks around the same time, we're gonna see an absolute bloodbath at UA. And yes, with All For One in his prime, a completely deranged Dabi, and Toga using Twice's quirk in Gunga, we can expect a major bloodbath there too. This is honestly so exciting and so terrifying at the same time. On the one hand, this is going to be a freaking amazing battle. Or two amazing battles that are going to be extremely exciting to watch. But on the other hand, we have to prepare ourselves for potential deaths, including the deaths of characters we've grown to care about, like maybe Monoma, Aizawa, Hawks, and so on. I'm not afraid for Deku or any of the main characters, but I just hope that my boy Manuel makes it out alive. Let's be real, he's been carrying the heroes for years, and without his help, the entire Hero Society would have collapsed a long time ago. But what do you guys think? Are we about to see full Power Shigaraki as soon as the next chapter? Is Toga about to unleash Sad Man's Parade on Hawks, the man responsible for killing Twice? Are we going to see major heroes and hero students die? And if so, which ones? Definitely let me know what you think down in the comments below. I always love hearing from you. If you enjoy our MHA content and you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like and comment right now. It helps us out with that YouTube algorithm. And if you're one of the over 50% of people who watch our videos but aren't subscribed yet, do me a big favor and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. Subscribing on YouTube is completely free and it helps me out a lot. You can also hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at AnimeUproar. Big thank you to all of our Anime Uproar patrons for making videos like this one possible. Special thank you to Trucker Tim, a disciple of Lord Twigo himself. And I can't forget all of our The One tier patrons, including Alpha Sigma, Pate Heffa, The Toasted Chi, Corey McGowan, Owen, Taylor, and Anime S Code M. Finally, thank you to all of our other patrons, including Pro Hero tier patrons, the one and only Gilgamesh, Angel Cruz, Alicia Octor, Fatboy Games, Kaido Might Be a Duck, Ali Vania, Sandy, and The School Bus. If you enjoy our videos and you feel that they provide value to you, consider supporting us on Patreon or by becoming a channel member. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys!